something like that. Send you the thing right off the bat. Okay? Yeah, and I'm gonna call them back later. It looked good. There are a couple little things I would change, but it looked good. Okay? Thank you, Jason. Bye.
Is that one of ours?
No, that was one of ours. Jason Seeker.
It was all that they added that thing was that on that. You want me to write one?
I'll take another word.
I just want to make sure that it was real.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is the first one good?
Yeah. So we'll start here. We'll start with Richard and I here. Deb's passing through. I've already lost my red cup. I got to find my red cup again. We are going to cover some of the aspects of Flagger and whatnot, and you guys will all, at the successful completion of the course, have be delivered. And Richard walked in, and I handed him his Flagger card, and he asked, "Do I even have to stay any longer?" So we will go through some of the nuances of flagging. I sent you out, everybody got in an email, I believe, a Flagger handbook per se that's been redeveloped and put together. I will be sharing that via the screen, and you can follow along on the screen if you didn't print it out, if it's not readily available. I see someone's got their hand up. I probably just my initial my initial chat message there. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Journey, howdy. Thanks for joining us. I've got about 20 of you out there in this world, 14, I guess, right now, 14 different locations, and some of the locations I was just told have multiple people at it. So what I'd like you all to do, and I'm going to believe if you're sitting virtually, you also have the ability to email. So I need everybody there in these virtual rooms to send Debbie, D-E-B-B-I-E, @abzbt.org. I need you to send Debbie an email with the people sitting in that classroom. The people sitting in your room with you, I need to have their names. I need them to be spelled correctly because those names will be used for the cards. If I do not get those names, nothing will go out to those groups. Right now, I have within this piece, I have 6 people from Hungerford Construction, and if someone could just respond to me. I've got Caleb, Seth, Homer, Jim, Montgomery, and Norman from Hungerford Construction. If somebody respond to me, that means click your microphone and say, "Yep, we're all here." That's pretty good, man. Thank you. And then I've got Kyle, Kevin, Patrick, and Jeremy from Morrisville Water and Light Department. If somebody there could just respond to me, it'll probably be Kevin, but could you just respond to me as well? Kevin, I think if you hit your space bar, you'll actually go live. Okay. I'm gonna say I don't think I have Morrisville Water and Light then. Waitsfield Telecom. I got Seth, Dustin, Adam, and Ethan. Seth, Dustin, Adam, and Ethan. Could somebody from that location say hi to me?
Hey there.
Hey. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Hey, am I coming out to see you guys in a couple of weeks?
I have no idea.
Okay. I thought we were putting something together. I don't know if we ended up completing that task. And then Winterset, I won't even try to name the people in here. Winterset, if somebody there in Winterset just says we're all here, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So we're gonna go through this, and I know some of the folks from Winterset have been through before. One or two of the Morrisville folks have been through before, and I believe a couple of the Waitsfield guys have been before. So it'll be a update for some of those folks. I just want to comment on John's room there, John. Madness, John, you gotta clean up your friggin' room. Your room looks like shit. Would you just take some time and clean that place up? Just giving you a hard time, John. That's why, and seriously, John, you didn't have to leave me. It was kind of nice having you. John, that's why they don't let me, transmit from my office, because it looks very similar to your room there. They put me in a larger area so that I can spread all my crap out across the room. Okay? So, thank you for joining us. Where I want to start this, if you all have a piece of paper or something. So, as we dive into the whole flagging piece, and I'll just tell you let's forget contracts, let's forget permits, let's forget all that stuff for a minute. What I want to do is jump right into OSHA. OSHA, under their subpart 1926-200, has jurisdiction over the work zones and over flagging operations, and that's what they have. And they have been clear in the past that they were going to somewhat stay away from this work zone thing. They were going to leave it up to the contract managers, the developers, or whatnot, to see that the flagging thing was working correctly. About 2 years ago, OSHA Federal with Federal Highway, dove into in a partnership per se, and prioritized the whole work zone flagging context. And in doing so, by prioritizing that, they spelled out some very clear ideas on what they would find to be inconsistent with the way the BUTC spells out a work zone should be set up, and two, in that inconsistency, spelled out what would make them stop at a work zone and how they would handle an inspection. So I just think we ought to get that out on the table, and we ought to talk about it a little bit, because I think you as flaggers are going to be more involved in the OSHA standpoint, and I don't want you in it. I'll be perfectly honest, if we just did this, and I'll do it in a few minutes, But if we just thought about this scenario, um, I don't want you in it. I want you to be able to flag, continue to flag, and responsibility for that work zone should be back at the supervisor or the owner of that project. And I want to keep that responsibility back there. But when we start to look at a work zone, and we all know what I'm talking about, but when we start to look at a work zone, if I had a piece of paper, I would just take some quick, fast notes. When we look at a work zone itself, not that you want anything, you got a pen. You want a pen? You want anything?
No.
You got a pen? You want a pad of paper or something? Look at this shit. Not that you have to take notes, I don't care. Look at this, this is a cool pad. It's got a friggin' graph pad on the back. But when I look at a work zone and a work zone itself, and we'll just draw one out here, we've got three, I got traffic going this way, traffic going this way. Again, we identify this as live lane, live lane, live lane, dead lane. Dead lane. And by dead lane, what I'm trying to tell you is that's the lane we're going to shut down. And so when I start to look at a work zone in its entirety, what I look at is whenever we do it, we're going to try to have 3 signs out there. And we look at 3 signs. And those 3 signs being road work ahead or utility work ahead, be prepared to stop, and flagger. I don't care what type of work zone you put together. I don't care what type of work zone you put together, but you will at least have a flagger sign out there if you're in that location for an hour or better. You could argue with me and I'd let you turn around and argue with me, and I'm happy to do that. Pat, if you wanna argue with me about that flagger sign, the only way you're gonna get me to concede that is if you tell me we're in that location for less than an hour. Because they've defined that if we're in a single location for less than an hour or a mobile type operation, then it would take more time and more risk to put the signs in place than it would actually take to operate this work zone. So they have defined that, and that is pretty good for us to be able to use. So we end up with 3 signs: road work, utility work ahead, be prepared to stop, and flagger. And we have the identical signs down at the other end within that live lane. Within that live lane, again, now you can also turn around and say, I'm using be prepared to stop. You could turn around and tell me, you know what, we use the merge left or flagger ahead or whatever you want to say. We use that one in place of, or 1 lane road, I guess is what it is. We use the 1 lane road instead of that be prepared to stop sign. So we could, that's fine. I don't care about that. But the key piece is we have 3 signs out in front of us at that point in time. The other key piece is they're very clear in spelling out the separation between signs. And when we take a look at the separation between signs, it is either 100 feet per sign and flagger, or it's 350 feet per sign or flagger, or it's 500 feet. So those are your only 3 options: 100, 350, or 500. Pretty easy. We remember that. Most state contracts, 90% of the state contracts out there will identify that those signs are lying at 500 feet. And I'll explain this, I'll get into this a little deeper in a few minutes. But the takeaway I wanted you to hear is that they are very clear that these signs are equal distance. They are very clear that those signs are set up equal distance apart. And again, I've never seen anybody get out of a car with a measuring wheel and say, oh, that's 250 feet. I've never seen that, and I will probably never, ever see that. What I do see is when we start misplacing them and there's not equal distance in between the signs, because the traveling public reacts to those equally distant signs better than they react to things jumping back and forth with different distances. So again, that's an important factor, and I'll come back and tell you. The next piece in this is the standard is very clear that there is, and so this is funny, Richard, I count 5 cones there. I count 5 cones. Now, the standard references 5 or 6 cones because they include the cones across the longitudinal area. They include that cone at the elbow, which I never do. So you could argue with me again today if you want. We can have that discussion over whether there's really 5 or 6 cones. Guys, it's 5 or 6. We gotta see a straight line there. This area will take up between 50 and 100 feet. And I'm telling you about this work zone because 15 years ago or 20 years ago, and I never thought I'd be saying that shit, back in the day when I was just starting out, what happened was the flaggers were there to flag. That's what would happen is we were there to flag. Today, everything has fast forward to today. The flaggers are actually running these work zones. They're setting up the packages, they're taking them down, they're putting things in place, they're making adjustments. So if that's going to happen, then flagging is not just flagging. Flagging becomes work zone management. And again, you're going to accept that responsibility. You should have an understanding of it. So 5 cones there, and then cones across the face to protect our work area. And then at the tail end here, or the termination area, you would have another 5 cones. And you can dead end them much like that, or you can bring them back to the shoulder. Now, I highly recommend dead ending cones. That way, if you bring them back to the shoulder, you have to have somebody attending those cones other than the flagger in order to move traffic in and out of traffic, being the equipment being delivered, the product being delivered, something happened or things happening in that work zone that I need material for. I need somebody to attend those cones, and it can't be the flagger that's doing so. So that's spelled out fairly clearly. Now, the other piece is I have a flagger position of approximately 20 to 30 feet in front of that taper and 20 to 30 feet in front of my live lane taper or my dead end or termination taper down here. 20 to 30 feet. And then I have my flagger. Now, here's what I just said, is you have to establish a flagger station, an office for the flagger to operate from. And what we've done is we've established that clearly on the shoulder. I've clearly established that on the shoulder. Now, those guys up at Waitsfield Telecom can turn around and say, you know what? We don't tend to use two flaggers. We'll use a single flagger across from where we're working. Guys, I'm not going to argue with you about that. I believe we do it. I know we do it. But if I'm going to do a single flagger, then I'm probably in, as well as set up my work zone the way I'm going to set it up, I'm probably also going to give everybody some sort of site pool or target that I can point to as a flagger in a single flagger on a site that I can point to tell my traveling public from a central location where I expect them to stop. So, I mean, there's a couple little tools we can use, things we can do, but that would be somewhat important that we do figure that out ahead of time. Now, if you notice though, in both instances, I said the flagger was going to be standing off the shoulder or on the shoulder, off the road. Once we've stopped traffic, once we've stopped a couple cars here, once I've done so, then this flagger can move up here in the center of the road and hold traffic. So I want to clearly explain that that flagger can't live in the middle of the road. If that flagger is living on that yellow or white line, then we've got a problem. They should be moving from the flagger station or office to the center of the road to hold traffic. And then when they get ready to release traffic, they go back to their office again. So I want to point that out. That's how we should be putting these traffic control pieces together. I also want to point out, as I said a few minutes ago, is OSHA has a newfound interest in work zones. So you can expect their goal for the season, I'll just tell you right now, we've seen it. Their goal for the season is to do 20 work zone inspections. Their goal is to do 20 work zone inspections this season, which means we'll have 100 work zones going on at any given time. You have, what's that, a 5% chance of being inspected at any, no, 20 out of 100, you have a 20% chance. Oh, fuck, it just went up from 5% to 20% of being inspected. What is going to increase your or decrease the likelihood of your inspection? And that's really what I want you guys to understand is if these things, these signs, if we turn around and put these signs in so they're not equally spaced.
I was just telling you, some of them did not get their email to join. I don't know why, so I just resent a bunch of them to the winter segment.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened, but.
Okay. I'm not starting over.
Probably they've been through it a few times.
I can talk to them afterwards.
So I gotta go find out, see if they pull some.
I've still got 17, 18. So only one guy's joined since we went further since we started.
Okay.
Okay.
So, okay, thanks.
So this setup at the front side of this, I don't care if they're 100 feet, I don't care if they're 200 feet, I don't care if they're 400 feet. I don't care. What I do care is that whole piece, the signs are equally spaced and the flaggers somewhat equally spaced from those signs. If you don't have that, if this is just thrown in here, whatever length you want, you are going to see an OSHA guy stop. That's a tell. As the OSHA guy comes into this and just saw these bad signs, and he sees this flagger living in the middle of the road, he's going to stop. You can count on it. And then if he looks here and he sees anything less than 5 cones sitting there, he's gonna stop. So as this person, and in the normal sense, as this OSHA guy comes in, he has spotted these signs, he spotted the guy in the middle of the road, and he has now spotted this cone thing. He has gone down through the work zone. Up here, he turned around someplace and he's come back. And now he's using a camera and he's taking pictures of what he's actually seeing. He will proceed through the whole work zone again, turn around and pull in someplace in that area right there. He'll get out of his vehicle, he'll put a vest on, he'll put a hard hat on, and he'll walk down through. And this is where this whole thing starts to go to hell. And this is what I was saying. The last person I want an OSHA guy to talk to is one of you. I'm sorry. He is the last that is the last thing I want. What I'd like to be able to do, and I will tell you that you have a perfect right to do this. Your responsibility is flagging. I don't care what's going on with this traffic control setup. Your responsibility is flagging. Tell him or her, my responsibility at this point is flagging. Please go see the supervisor. At worst, at that point, all they're going to ask you is, do you have a traffic control plan? Traffic control plan. They will ask you if you have a traffic control plan. Every one of these work zones has to have a traffic control plan. Most days we will try to go over it at the start of the day or sometime during your shift. We will go over whatever changes have occurred within that traffic control plan. But we have to have that traffic control plan and you have to be aware of it. So again, I'm here to do an inspection. How you doing? Do you have a traffic control plan? Yeah, I got a traffic control plan, but why don't you go see Glenn Lavoie? He's our project manager today. He's the super. Go see Glenn, and I'm flagging right now. And that's really what we want to do is get them moving. Now, the backside of this is I want to get them away from here. But what just happened with this is they're now down in here, which I then have the exposure if we're doing concrete cutting or we're doing excavating or we're doing trenching. I now have the exposure of that whole process. And I'm going to hope that the company's on the right page and we're able to survive that piece favorably. So I do think it's important initially, this is what is going to bring them to our work site. That's it. And then once they're there, they're going to do whatever else they have to do. But we as trained professionals should be able to keep our work site safe and keep them as our traffic control plan says. And that really is the essence of what we're trying to do here. Any questions on that? I mean, I haven't clicked your mics off. If somebody wants to ask a question on that, I'm happy to take it. Anything? Okay. With that said, I'll probably just keep moving here, if I can. We have shared with you. What's the best way to do that? We've shared with you. If you didn't print it out, I will share my screen now. I'll share my screen, which I think you all have on your screen. So we have a traffic control safety, traffic control safety handbook, whatever we want to call it. And again, those are available here at the office, or I know Debbie sent them out to you. And I mentioned a few things going into this. I want to cover them again. Within this book or whatnot, it will tell you about the purpose for occupational safety and health, the OSHA guidelines here. The manual on uniform traffic control devices, it doesn't go into great detail, but that book is 9 chapters, 1,800 pages or so, and only one part of it, about 300 pages, the flagging part, chapter 6 is referenced, and I've got some typicals, what they call typicals, so we can take a look at those and discuss those. And then a reminder that everybody flagging has to be wearing class 2 or better safety apparel, and that means it's a high vis with some retroreflective striping included in it. And then how to set up and maintain individual traffic control, and then some of those requirements that are in and around that. There are 2 main pieces of this traffic control, and I mentioned one of them being that internal, daily traffic control plan, very important that we all understand. And then you're seeing a shift. And one of the shifts we're seeing right now is the fact that we've had a large number of flaggers involved in incidents. By incidents, we're hitting our own friggin' people with our own equipment. And so we're again, you're seeing a resurgence of some of the internal traffic control plans and understanding of those. And we've got to have a clear understanding of how we are going to move equipment in and out of this work zone. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'll probably do a PowerPoint or 2 to just show some different aspects. But again, the flagger handbook has been quite beneficial in this. Remembering that, and we start to talk about the sheer bandwidth that you flaggers are going to have and the construction companies are going to have over the next 12 to 18 months, particularly around, oh shit, I should have told you. So particularly around this whole COVID thing. And the reason I'm saying around this whole COVID thing, did you get a vaccine? Are you going to get one? Yeah, I fucking registered for mine today. I feel pretty good. I'm going to get a vaccine. They're going to give me a friggin' shot, but it's not going to make a difference. Every contract coming out, every work within the federal highway system for the next year, you will be required to wear a mask, face covering if we cannot socially distance. I'm going to tell you it does not matter. And part of the reason it doesn't matter, and we can have a slight influence on this, I'm not asking you to get into it, but we can have a slight influence on this, it appears through surveys that only about 50% of the construction industry believes they're going to get vaccinated before the end of the year. So our protocols will remain in place until 75 or 80% of the construction community actually gets vaccinated. So we will, once again, have another summer with face coverings and social distancing and hand sanitizer and that whole deal. But again, that becomes our fault and not anybody else's. But I said that because I was jumping to something else, also because of this whole COVID thing and the CARES Act and the America Recovery Act and the $1.9 trillion, and then the new Transportation Act that's coming out supposedly in the next 90 days. Vermont right now has 64 projects on the table ready to go out between now and July, which is about 20% higher than most years. Following between July 1 and the June 30th, there's another 120 projects that are coming out. So if you just look over the next 12 to 18 months, we have 180 projects ready or supposedly planned to come out in that period of time. That all being said, we will have more work zones, more things set up, more material moving, and we have to be ready for it. And it's going to be just the fact that we will increase our sheer number of work zones, our sheer number of people put at risk. Right now, without any of that in place, one work zone fatality every 8 hours across the country. That's 3 a day. One work zone injury incident every 9 minutes, 160 a day. And we aren't even up to capacity yet. And we're going to hit that capacity. So keep that in mind, the sheer risk factor that's coming ahead of us. And I didn't get into, and I know I got the water and light folks up in Morrisville, I got the Waitsfield Telecom. I didn't get into the infrastructure improvements that are also part of that whole Recover America Act and the CARES Act and everything else. So there's a bunch of work zones that are going to be out there, and we've got to prepare for them, and we've got to have some planning done, and we've got to be able to do this safely. So keep that in mind along the way. The other part is I hit on it real fast, but OSHA, it's 29 CFR 1926, subpart G, does have some federal requirements. Here's one of the funny parts of those federal requirements. Up until 2 years ago, OSHA was operating under the Millennium Edition of the MUTC, which was very permissive in how you set work zones up. 2 years ago, they adopted the 2009 edition, which gave us some more regulatory thoughts and how these should be done. And they are prepared right now. The MUTC, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, has been rewritten, and they are going to release the 2020 version this summer, and OSHA will adopt it prior to the start of next season. So there's a few things that are in flux, going to change, but I'm going to stay focused on what they expect today. What the construction standard says, according to OSHA right now, is that all construction areas shall be posted with legible traffic signs at a point of a hazard. They have defined work zones as that point of hazard, and we've got to have traffic signs out there. And then it says all traffic signs or devices used for protection of construction workers shall conform with Part 6 of the MUTC, or Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which says if you look at the typicals, they recommend ways to set these work zones up. Not a single one of the work zones is allowed to be set up without some sort of signage or some sort of flagging apparatus out there. So remember that. Then it spells out in 201A that signaling by flaggers and the use of flaggers, including warning garments worn by flaggers. So it took the whole friggin' thing. And it's got to conform to the manual on uniform traffic control devices. So again, we'll get into that a little deeper, but OSHA has clearly defined that they will have some sort of jurisdiction within these work zones, which we haven't really seen in the past. The work zone safety standards, again, come from that manual on uniform traffic control devices that I'm talking about. I took a few excerpts from that and put it in this flagging book. 5 basic considerations for traffic control devices. And I will tell you, as of this moment, if you are a flagger, you are considered a traffic control device. You are a legal traffic control device at that point in time. As soon as you start flagging, those devices have to fulfill a specific need, i.e. cones along that transition paper at the front of my work zone. They're fulfilling a need. I'm trying to move traffic in a different way than it's accustomed to. The flagger directing or assisting that traffic through that work zone, a specific need. They got to command attention. The orange, white stripes, the green vest, the pants, all conveys a very specific message, simple meaning. And then, of course, respect of the road user and adequate time for a proper response. And that actually comes with the way we set all this stuff up. So everybody reacts consistently the same way with every work zone they enter. How are we doing, Richard? We doing okay?
Yeah.
I'm glad you showed up because I don't know if you realize it. I'll be right back. Be right back.
You don't know where to talk to, right?
Huh?
You don't know where to
I
talk to.
know. Yeah, I don't know if you realize it, but usually it's just John and myself.
Yeah.
John tends to come to the programs and he sits right here in the front row. It's usually just John and myself doing these things, but we have Richard here, so I never had a chance to put John in his seat. There you go.
Jonathan Reckon. John can sit up.
There you go. Don't fall up. So this whole virtual thing, man, anything to entertain myself. So we have within it, work zone standards are found in the manual on uniform traffic control devices. And we have incorporated parts of those standards within this flagging book so that everybody has a basic understanding of it. And again, we have some fundamental principles of work zone safety. And each and every one of us should probably understand those principles. Road user and worker safety and accessibility should be an integral part, high priority element of every project from planning through design and construction. And by saying that, they're actually saying we should have a work zone plan or a daily traffic control plan that everybody understands and that we can, in some fashion, make some adjustments, but we got to let everybody know that we made those adjustments. Road user movement should be inhibited as little as practical. If I can figure out a way to do this and really limit the amount of movement or holding pattern for these people within these work zones, then that's where I should go and that's how I should figure this out. The other piece that has become very important to us recently, and it's going to become even friggin' more important, because we have a larger group. Did you know you cannot buy a bicycle today? I'm being serious. If you are a biker or a cyclist, and in past years, your cycle shops at this point in time are loaded with friggin' bicycles, right? They are sold out, other than your Walmarts or your discount stores. The actual bike shops are sold out of bicycles
Makes sense.
already for the year. And part of it again is that whole COVID year. Last year, everybody went out and started buying bikes and getting back to nature and hiking and walking and all this other stuff. But what that has done is increased our bicyclists and pedestrians on our roadways, which they become part of our concern as flaggers. And we've got to protect them just like we protect the cars, just like we protect our fellow workers. Again, guide them in a clear and positive manner. And where we're going to run into conflict in that is you have the bicyclist conflict out on the road, but you also have these new hiking trails and walking paths and biking rail trails and whatnot that intersect our work zones. So now we're going to start thinking about how we're going to get them around our work zone and what type of signage would be required to do so safely. So the other one, again, should be given, attention should be given to maintenance of roadside safety during the life of the work zone. In order to do that adequately, we're probably going to do some type of work zone evaluation or audit. So we know what's going on, what is working, and what's not necessarily working well. And then good public relations, of course. You guys, and again, I'm speaking to the choir here. I know this isn't a problem, but on AOT and AOT contract and permitted things, and now some municipalities, I'll include Burlington, I'll include part of Chittenden County, part of Rutland County, have all established diversity protocols within these work zones. So basically what I'm telling you is that you've got to watch out for the t-shirts, the logos you're wearing, the flags in the back of your truck, whatnot. They can't be offensive to other folks. Basically, I'm trying to tell you is leave the show me your booby t-shirts at home. So that is, they are going to start to police or patrol that whole diversity thing within our scheme and our realm. And we should be ready for it. Dress appropriately, good public relations is going to be important. Worker safety considerations, when we start to address those pieces, let me just ask somebody out there. I've got a question. I just need to ask a question. I'm trying to think who I've got out there that could tell me. Hey, Seth, are you right out there, man? Seth, you with me? Adam, you with me?
Which one?
Hey, Adam, am I advancing on the screen? Or Seth? Anybody, am I advancing on the screen?
I don't think so.
What do you see on your screen right now?
Worker safety considerations.
Okay, I'm advancing then.
Right.
My monitor screen in here is not advancing, which means I lost internet to something, but I'm not gonna worry about that as long as you have the right one up in front of you. The worker safety considerations, again, constantly changing conditions, but bigger in that worker safety considerations is you guys as flaggers have to understand the safety factor of moving equipment in and out of these work zones. I've always thought in the past that my biggest risk was the traveling public coming through our work zones, it has changed in the last 2 years that we are hitting more of our own folks than other folks are hitting us. So when we start working in and around this heavy equipment, we have to understand blind spots. We have to understand the different things going on with them, and how to do that. Workers on foot, very important. And then understanding that, and you're going to see an extreme crackdown on this situation between May and July 4th. And I don't know what's going to happen after July 4th, but the whole distracted driving piece, the texting while driving, the phone thing, you're going to see more law enforcement working with our work zones to try to protect us not only from that, but from speeding vehicles. So again, make sure when you're stopping somebody, you got some sort of eye contact with them. When you're showing that stop sign before you step out in the middle of the road, make sure and establish some sort of eye contact, so that we do know we have them. And then we start to look at another thing here, worker safety considerations. And you're going to see a clear outline, not only of training of us, meaning us in the flagging world and the traffic control world, but both National Safety Council, ATSA, and a few others have now convened and outlined proper training for those workers that are actually working within the work zone, so that they understand some of the safety hazards of people traveling through, around, and in. This whole worker on foot thing is becoming a phenom. Worker safety apparel, and I give traffic control companies a lot of credit for this. We are regulated that we wear a class 2 or better vest right now. And I just said vest, I should have said apparel. Class 2 or better apparel. And that tends to be a vest. High vis green, high vis orange, whatever you want to call it. And then it's got 2-inch stripes around it. The flagging community across Vermont and New Hampshire right now has shifted to the E-class supplement without being told. E-class supplement is wearing the friggin' pants as well. And again, it's increasing that target value that's out there, so that flagger is clearly seen and stands out from the rest of the work crew. So I think that's something great we've done as far as safety apparel. The other thing you're going to see start to kick in, there's 10 pilot projects that some of you flaggers may be involved in. I think Winterset, you guys have one of them, if I remember correctly, but where we're going to start using strobe lit paddles. The flaggers on those jobs will be using strobe lit paddles throughout the season. And again, it's a pilot or evaluation process, but what we're doing is trying to increase, and I hate using this word, but it is the word to use, increase the target value of that person standing in the road. So it's clear we have somebody out there. And then you're going to see an increase in these work zones of law enforcement to enforce a speed reduction of some sort, and some more worker safety planning in how they're actually being put together. And again, that's all just little things coming up, but I thought it was important that you guys know that. Every traffic control setup has to have a competent person, and it can be one of the 2 flaggers, one of the 4 flaggers can be said, okay, you're the competent person for this project. Make sure that you see that they're set up correctly. Make sure you're following the traffic control plan. And if we have any problems, we need to know about it. So every one of these pieces, work zones, has to have an associated competent person. Now, and again, just jumping around with people here, but for you people at Waitsfield Telecom or whatnot, that competent person may be the supervisor of the project, maybe somebody back at the shop, I don't care. We just have to know that we've got a competent person that has reviewed this traffic control plan and seeing that it's put in place. In other instances, it could be the lead flagger, it could be somebody else on the job site. But everyone's got to have a defined competent person, and they will be responsible for that traffic control plan in some aspect. So we should know that. Project, and I don't care if it's daily, and you guys in the communication and the electrical world are fabulous at this. We should be as good. Every time we set a work zone up, we should have a 5 or 10 minute orientation as to what is expected of us. It can go longer if you wanted to, but we should have a 5 or 10 minute talk time, toolbox talk, orientation, whatever you want to call it, to make sure everybody involved in this work zone process understands what their role and responsibility of it is. And sometimes they are involved with the traffic control piece. They may be involved with operating the bucket truck or running the excavator or delivering material to the site. But everybody should be aware of what everybody else's responsibility is going to be for that given time. So again, it's important we have some sort of orientation, some sort of understanding of that. I talked about the safety apparel, and there's a good shot. You are seeing, and again, it's been voluntary. The flagging companies and groups have gone to a class 2 or better with an E-class supplement. That's those pants. That has been going over tremendously. And again, if you're doing your own flagging, at a minimum, it will be class 2 best or better. Now, I think it was somebody from Kingsbury asked me the other day, but I'll just throw it out. A specific contract came out the other day, and that contract identified that traffic control personnel will have traffic control on the back of their vest. Will have. Remember, there's no spec, or there used to be a spec that said all vests for traffic control will say traffic control on them. There's no longer that spec. That's gone, except that this contract itself spells out that in this case, and I think it's a Williston job, will have traffic control spelled out on it. So take a look at what the actual visibility or safety apparel parameters are for your jobs, and let's just make sure we're wearing the correct pieces. The temporary traffic control zone, if we take a look at the zone, and I'm going to go back to my drawing here quickly. Oh, this is going to be tough. Let's see if we can do it. Go back to my drawing quickly. So every traffic control work zone has several different parts or pieces of it. And we should understand those pieces. They make sense. You just got to know when we're talking with other people within that work zone, what we're actually talking about. So this front part with the signs in it, wherever there are signs here or signs here, if we have those signs, that is known as our advanced warning area. So we would want to make sure and understand that signs are always set up in the advanced warning area. Then we have this next place, and that's where we have the cones sitting, and we have a transition area. That area is known as the transition area. It's where I'm moving traffic out of its normal path, sending it out. So transition area. And then I have workspace or the work zone, whichever you want to refer to it. And within that work zone, I have a travel area or travel space where I'm sending the cars to, again, stopping them in the dead lane and allowing them to operate in that live lane. Then I have the workspace where the work's actually being done. And I also have this area right here, which is semi-new to what we're doing. Some of us have seen it, some of us haven't, but that's called the buffer space. And it's just a matter of where we're going, how we're going to allow some sort of safety feature between my transition area and the actual workspace in case somebody comes down and doesn't stop when asked to stop. They have a runoff area without hitting anybody or anything. At the tail end, I have a termination area. That's the area that we put those cones back and we try to move them back to their normal driving process. So again, every work zone has those same features and we should remember that. See, in the big rigs, man, they have a production coordinator that moves cameras for them.
I never got one. I did it for 13 years.
Yeah, I never got one. What'd you do?
Coast to coast, everything,
Oh, did you?
heavy and wide,
Yeah.
got up to 16-foot wide, over 125,000.
Yeah. So again, advanced warning area, transition area, activity areas, and then termination area. We can see it all right there in that diagram. The activity area being the whole of that metal, and then we have our workspace, our buffer space, traffic space out there. Again, just remembering what each of those pieces are. That advanced warning area, and I had mentioned it earlier, there is say a rule of thumb, suggested spacing, typical spacing for that sign placement inside that advanced warning area. And that sign placement inside that advanced warning area is urban low speed. They're generally placed, and by low speed, it's 25 miles an hour or less. Urban low speed, we tend to place those signs about 100 feet apart. When I go to urban high speed, and urban high speed is 40 or less, urban high speed, we tend to jump out to 350 feet per sign. And once I jump up over that 40 mark, 45 or greater, sign spacing tends to go out to 500. Again, that whole thing is based on sight stopping distance and sight reactionary distances. And we want to make sure and give people clear understanding of what's expected of them and give them time to react. So we see that in the advanced warning area. Transition area, as I said earlier, what we're looking at is the 5 cones, roughly 50 to 100 feet, roughly 20 feet apart. That would give the driver a clear sense of something's in front of them. Spacing is important on those. And then our activity area, as I said, workspace, buffer space, and then traffic space. And again, that buffer space, again, is based on sight stopping distance. Roughly in a 35 mile an hour area, we're looking at 250 feet to stop. Traffic control devices, signs, that type of stuff, barricades, cones, whatnot. All signs used at night have to be retroreflective.
It's got to clearly inform the motorists of where we want them to go. And then exact sign spacing or placement is based on the road characteristics. And if we've got to change the sign a little bit in one direction or the other, make sure we do the same thing for the outside or the inside, so that we do continue that consistent message across the board. Warning signs, and I think this is on the test, but warning signs in temporary traffic control zones must have a black legend and a border on an orange background. Cones, you can throw your 18-inch cones away. Cones are 28 inches, double white reflective, retro-reflective striping on them. Bare minimum, 28, 2 reflective stripes. And then, of course, we have barrels, barricades, and the other manner. And if we're talking about those, we want to talk about a little more than flagging. If I have to weight down barricades, barrels, or any of that stuff, you never put the weight on top. It's the design weight features. You never put anything on top of these. It's the design safety features that generally go around. If I've got to weight down cones because of high winds or whatnot, I probably want to look at doubling them up and not adding any sort of weight to them. So just keep that in mind. And then the reason you're all sitting here, flagger qualifications. Right now, ability to receive, communicate specific instructions, ability to move and maneuver quickly in order to avoid danger, ability to control signaling devices, paddles, flags in order to provide clear, positive guidance, ability to understand and apply safe traffic control practices, and ability to recognize dangerous traffic situations, warn workers of what's ahead. In Vermont, they have some specific requirements, and I just want to hit on those. Take half a second and hit on those. In Vermont, we've got specific requirements, those being very clearly uniform traffic officer or UTO, or a flagger. The only person that can actually direct traffic is a UTO. Only person that can direct traffic is the UTO. Flaggers are given the ability to stop and release. So in essence, unless we come up with some radical setup, flaggers should not be used in intersections. We should be looking at a UTO for those that intersection work. There are ways to work around that, setting the flagger back from the intersection. Again, flaggers can't override a stop sign, override a red light. But if we set them back, we could work sequences with those lights that are actually out there working. And then training, they talk about training, and then the duties of law enforcement and the qualifications of flaggers. The qualification is all flaggers utilized on a project have successfully completed a 4-hour flagger training course given by a certified instructor within the last 24 months. Clothing, as I started to hit on earlier, clothing, a high-vis vest, they talk about uniform traffic officers, and then they talk about flaggers. The only addition in the flagger apparel, you'll use a high-vis vest, but also it is a requirement of contract and permits that we wear a hard hat. And OSHA has now helped build that into the contract or permitting piece, that it is a requirement that flaggers wear approved headgear consisting of a protective headgear, such as a hard hat or a brim cap of the type commonly referred to as a baseball cap, or anything else required by law. So again, that is the requirement there. Vermont flaggers have to be equipped with a stop slow paddle. Flags are not allowed except in emergency situations. And then they are clear. Flaggers shall at all times be properly dressed, present a neat appearance and have a reflectorized gear clean and visible to the traveling public. The standard procedures, flagging, we identified flagging operations, the proper signals to give, clear messages to drivers, allow time and distance for drivers to react. Again, giving them that stopping distance that's necessary, and having the station located on the shoulder outside the travel path, stopping the operators and then moving to the center of the road, and having advance warning out there. We talk about internal traffic control plans. I'm not going to dive into it today. That is probably more a company-specific piece, but we then got into some of the warning systems for equipment, backup alarm, moving alarm, working in and around mobile cranes, making sure they're barricaded off, motor vehicle safety, and then emergency planning and response. We should be on high alert for any ambulance or emergency vehicles coming into or coming through our work zone, and we should have a plan in place on how to handle those. I will tell you that they will creep up in the live lane and try to get as close to the front as possible, waiting for you to release them through the work zone. They will not go right through the work zone. They will creep up, they will hold their place, but not create a hazard. And then they will proceed through the work zone when you give them permission to do so. Handling of hostile drivers away. Don't get into an argument. Let's not go stupid on this. Be courteous but firm. But if you have the opportunity, record a description of the car, the driver, the license plate, let your super know or let the competent person know. Warn fellow workers. Get that note to somebody, because law enforcement has been super with us thus far. If you have a problem out there, they will take care of it. And then we have, and this is just an average, this is just us throwing together a daily traffic control plan. Those daily traffic control plans will generally have a date, a time, weather, location, where it is, who prepared it, what is the work duration, any comments. We included the distance between signs in there, so you can quickly find that. And we included a piece of graph paper that if you need to draw one out, you can draw one out. But if it were me, I would probably go to the next page, and what we included in this was some typical examples. Typical example of working beyond the shoulder just requires a road work ahead sign and a vehicle with some strobe lights out there. Again, we aren't affecting any of the lanes or operation within those lanes. So it's pretty clear we can do that with minimal signs, no flaggers. When I start to look at taking out a shoulder or a parking lane, downtown or in the country, taking out a shoulder or a parking lane, again, not actually affecting the travel lanes. I need a couple signs out there, road work ahead, shoulder work, and then I should set my shoulder taper up to clearly identify that it's shut down. And I have a strobe light on my vehicle to clearly identify where we are. The other piece we did on these typicals was we included a matrix. If you're in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, your sign spacing would be 350. Your shoulder would be, shoulder taper would be 70 feet long. And if you put a buffer taper in there, it'd be 250 feet. So we've done some of the work for you. We've tried to make it easy and make this thing work fairly consistently. Divided lane, parking lane closed. We've done that. 2 flagger operation. this one you guys should just cement in your head. Just put it in your head. 2 flagger operation on a 2-lane road. 2 flagger operation, 2-lane road. 90% of our flagger operations is this. And it clearly spells out 1 lane road ahead, road work ahead, flagger symbol. Again, that flagger being spaced where it is, the 100-foot, 50 to 100-foot taper, the buffer space, and again, we gave you a matrix on the bottom to identify what the sign spacing should be, what the buffer space should be. So if you're filling out a daily traffic control plan and you say, God, I'm going to do a TA10, all you got to look is at page 37, and you got all the information you need within that page 37. So we've done that, done some of that work for you. We've also done the single, let's see, lane closure, 2-lane road, 1 flagger operator. We've done that. We've included a spec for that. And again, your sign spacing and everything else in place. Work in a travel lane. There's 2 options with a travel lane. One of them being create a shift and allow both lanes to move around this work area. If you have 10 feet minimum left over for use for each lane, 10 feet for each lane, you can create that sort of shift. And then we got road closures, and we've got working in the center of the road, all kinds of different setups here to assist you in putting those together. And intersection work. Different types of intersection work, different types of setups within that intersection, different types of sign spacing. We've included that all in here. Lane closures coming into an intersection. And then we've included a work zone traffic control inspection form for anybody that would like one. They're included within that book as well. And I believe you all received this digitally, and we'll be sending out a full flagger packet before we're done here. Deb will mail them out with the cards tomorrow, and they'll go right to the main office unless I hear differently. And then also up on page 51, we've included a flagger test for you. And an exercise, some different things. And then the references that we use from the music. Any questions on any of that, anybody? Any questions on any of that? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I've got a PowerPoint I want to share with you. And that's coming right up here shortly. It's coming right up here shortly. I'm gonna take you guys, give me 10 minutes. I see it is something like 1:20. We will be back at this at 1:30. So I see 1:20 on my clock in front of me. We'll come back in here at 1:30 and we'll rattle through this PowerPoint presentation. We'll take the test and we'll call it a day. Sound okay? Okay.
everyone made their own delicious choice. Coca-Cola flavors, unbelievably delicious.
With so many delicious Coca-Cola flavors and Coca-Cola Zero Sugar flavors options to choose from, you'll have to taste them all.
Little bit of feedback, a little bit of feedback. That wasn't bad. So I think we'll get going again. I hope you all have come back and joined us. It's looking like we did get the rest of the Winterset group in. So welcome. I know I have had, and I gotta just say, I have had. You guys will know what I'm talking about here. The Morrisville crew may not, the Wakefield crew may not, but the Winterset crew, I gotta thank you. I don't know who twisted your arms or who forced you, but I've seen a nice little crew either joining me on Monday mornings for our Monday morning spring safety seminar series, or we've seen a large number of downloads of those actual videos. And what's funny is they're an hour and a half. Monday morning, we do a quick thing because we realize in this COVID world, it's hard to get together as a team or as a company and do the safety training and do the thing. So every Monday morning, we create another safety video. Those of you out there, I think I'm going to be honest with you, I got like 3 weeks left in me. I'm friggin' dying on this 7 to 9 thing on Monday. Not because it's 7 to 9, but because I'm just running out of shit to talk about, I'll be honest. So we have 3 more weeks, but the other funny part about it is I wasn't sure if we were going to record them, if we were going to actually, why wouldn't I just do them live? If they don't catch them, that's fine. Our largest user of the recorded events right now is a tie between Casella and Winterset, and we can actually see within those recorded events how long you actually watched an hour and a half video. Did you did you spend an hour and a half, or did you advance through it inside of 30 minutes? So I'm just letting you know the thing has gone over tremendously, and I appreciate all your support up there at you guys up at Winterset. Thank you. We're going to dive into the flagging operation piece here. It won't be too painful. The traffic, again, traffic flagging. Flaggers are critical to traffic safety, and flaggers have important responsibility. Each one of you out there has an important responsibility to the success of this project, because motorists, workers, and more now than ever, those pedestrians, bikes, children moving through our work zone, they all have, in order for us to be successful at the other end, we got to be able to provide safe passage for them. And then you yourself, probably the most important part of this whole thing is knowing to protect yourself along the way. So we'll get into that a little bit. Responsibilities of the flagger, and I've outlined these very clearly. Your first responsibility is protecting yourself. I don't know if I have any women out there. This is a funny data point that came out of one of the universities out in California. But women are twice as likely to be hit at a flagger station as men are. And part of the thing, when they actually studied this, part of the thing was, if a car was coming down on a work zone, a woman would step in front of the car thinking they would stop it. And they're blaming it on this mother issue, by the way, that they feel the protection of all those people behind them is very important. And it is. I'm not diminishing any of this, except a guy, if a car is coming down on a guy will turn and run and say, the hell with the rest of you, I'm out of the way. And I'm not saying that's gallant, that's the right way. I'm telling you that if you're a woman and you are listening to me right now, please, if a car's coming down on you, get out of the way. Yell to everybody else, radio to anybody else, protect the rest of them, but really get out of the way of that traffic. And I don't know why it's 2 to 1, but it is. Your safety is more important than anything else out there right now. And then second, the safety of other workers. And if we have an incident, warn people we're having an incident, try to get through on the a horn, whatever it is, let's let people know. And then finally, safety of the driving public. Again, they are protected, they're inside a vehicle, and it's the rest of us that we really need to worry about. Remember that drivers tend to be tired, preoccupied. Flagger, you got to get their protection. You got to catch their eye. You got to be able to see what they're doing, and then guide them through the work zone safely to protect the fellow workers. Just the simple fact of trying to control drivers is difficult unto itself, and part of the reason is that work zones are more prone to accidents. Part of that reason is drivers like to be in control on one end and they're distracted on the other, and they left 10 minutes late for the friggin' meeting they got to get to. So we are controlling this whole thing, and we've got to control those drivers and operators alike. Follow standard uniform flagging procedures, very important. It does, consistency out there does increase motorist respect and promotes uniform response. And again, it minimizes the driver's confusion. If you are in the road, always have a flagger ahead sign ahead of you, not behind you. Consistent messaging when at all possible. Factors that affect drivers' ability. I'll also give you another data point here. The road itself. The road itself, we're doing work at it, whatnot. What role alcohol and drugs play? It used to be, this was funny, the whole alcohol thing, and it still is, by the way, the worst time of the week for someone, for a DUI or drivers out there under the influence of a substance, of course, is Friday night. We all know that. Friday night. The worst daytime period for that same driver is between Wednesday from 1 to 4. Wednesday from 1 to 4, there is a upswing in drivers under the influence being stopped. So if I'm flagging, I just want to take that into account to be especially careful. Make sure I've got eye contact with those operators and be aware of that. The other one is older drivers and younger drivers tend not to be as safe as that mid-range. That mid-range being from roughly 30 to 55 tend to be the calmer drivers, but they also tend to be those drivers that are most apt to be late for another meeting or something. So keep that in mind. Flaggers, stay alert at all times. Always face oncoming traffic. Never turn your back to traffic. Stand alone, be highly visible, stay on the shoulder, out of the path of vehicles. And then you guys have to relay information to the motorists, and that generally is stop, slow, what's going on, how's it going on. Be courteous but firm, have a neat appearance, and use common sense in doing so. Flagger training, we should be properly trained in safe traffic control practices, and we should be practicing the ABCs of flagging. A, advanced warning, we talked about. B, be visible, have our correct clothing on, and C, maintain control. Advanced warning lets the public know that you're there, and always install before the start of a flagging operation. I'm going to pivot around for a minute here, real fast. I wonder if I can do this and not screw up everything.
so you're on the record, don't be scared, just go for it.
Yeah, just do it. Hey, so if we're setting up a work zone, we talked about everything we need, all the elements, everything we have. But if I'm putting this work zone together, and that's my responsibility, I would always start with this first sign that the operator's gonna see, or the driver's gonna see. Up here, the first sign they're gonna see in the live lane. So that would be the first sign I set. The next one would be the second sign, third sign I'd set, and then I'd come down through, get to the end of this, and come back and hit sign 3, sign 4, and sign 5. And that's the way I would set that up. Again, with the flow of traffic coming back into the activity area or the workspace that we're putting together. And then once I hit that workspace, I would let a flagger out. My other flagger would be, they would hold traffic while this flagger puts these cones in place. So that would be item 7. And then my cones across the face would be item 8. And at that point, we get this dead end or whatnot. And my last flagger is back to where they could be, item 9. So we're always going to set traffic up or work zones up in the direction of traffic, with the direction of traffic. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we've kind of done what we needed to do. When it comes time to take it down, it's always knocked down, and I said a word, knocked down against the flow of traffic. So I knock it down, knock it down, knock it down, knock it down, and then knock this down. Again, I've already removed my cones. I've piled them up here, and then I come back through and pick my signs up, and then pick my cones up, come down, turn around, and pick up my last sign. So again, I put things together with the flow of traffic, and I take them apart against the flow of traffic. Typical warning signs, as we said earlier, road work ahead, utility work, 1-lane road, be prepared to stop, flagger ahead. We talked about the advanced warning sign spacing. I mean, speeds lower than 40 miles, 40 or lower, 100 to 350. Anything higher than that, we get up to that 500 mark. Setup, as I was just saying, you go with the flow of traffic, go with the flow of traffic, and be aware of any obstructions or anything out there. Remove and reverse, of course. Against the flow, no longer needed, even for short periods. Knock them down or remove them, and then let's get going again. If motorists tend to see them constantly with no flagger out there, then they don't respect what they're seeing. And then make sure the public sees you. I mean, the high visibility apparel, very important. Have the correct stuff and the correct equipment. Contrasting colors, striping, the orange, green, retroreflective stripes, whatever it is. And then class 3 and supplements are generally recommended for that whole nighttime thing. And if you're flagging at night, you probably want to supplement what you're wearing with a flashlight, a cone, meaning a flashlight with a cone. And if you're flagging at night, that flagger station has to be lit. It has to be lit separately from anything else, i.e. I can't use a street light. I can't use a sign light. It's going to be its own lighting source for that area or that flagging station. Equipment that we would have, generally standard stop slow paddle, red flags for emergency only, and that's been spelled out very clearly. An air horn, that's bouncing back and forth, but some way to warn people or the workers within that work zone that people aren't necessarily following direction. And then personal comfort items, and I was talking about that this morning, these personal comfort items. I'll just tell you, in my mind, there's two of them that we should all have. Sunblock for the hot days, and if you're working at night underneath that friggin' light, you want insect repellent. I would tell you those two, sunblock and some sort of insect repellent, depending on the time of day I'm working. That's important. Stop slow paddles. Again, we don't need to dive into this too deep. Somebody's going to hand us a paddle, but just know it's a white stop legend on red, slow black on an orange legend in the back. It's got to be 18 by 18. They can't be shop made. They've got to be UC grade, 5 to 7 feet high on a rigid handle. All pretty good stuff, good condition. Preferred flagger location, as we were talking about earlier, never in the path of moving vehicles, always on the shoulder and at the beginning of the taper, generally 20 feet in front of that taper, we would see a flagger. And again, if we take a look at that simple picture, the flagger's obviously too close to the taper on both ends, and my flagger sign is too close to the overall piece. So take a moment, do it right. Taper, we talked about tapers earlier, typically 50 to 100 feet max, 2-lane flagging, 5 or 6 cones out there about 20 feet apart. Buffer space, we discussed that. An empty space that people run off vehicles can have a place to pull into. It's always empty, by the way. And then, of course, our buffer space needs. And then control, remember, flaggers considered, and I said it, and I'll say it again, a legal traffic control device, and you guys have to be obeyed. And if you're having problems out there, make sure we report it to our supervisor. Somebody get a license number, get a description, and let's let the authorities deal with it. 3 basic flagging skills, again, stopping, releasing, and slowing traffic. Stopping traffic, you would stand on the shoulder. I'll give you a heads up though. Never stop a FedEx, a UPS, or a friggin' fuel truck, local fuel truck, White's heating oil. Don't stop FedEx, UPS, or a fuel truck. And the reason I say that is those trucks normally stop in the friggin' road anyway. Don't stop them as the first vehicle to stop. Always stop a smaller car, smaller vehicle that people can see around, see over, so that they know what's actually happening. Once you've got them stopped, again, facing traffic with eye contact on that person, then you move to the center of the road, facing traffic as it comes at you, and stop the rest of the lane. But never stand in front of oncoming, moving traffic, please. Releasing traffic, and again, we say 2 ways. It's actually the same way. It's just used in 2 different manners. And what they are actually sending them into the open lane, where I go back to the shoulder, I flip it over to slow, and then I just wave them into that lane, the live lane, from the live lane down. And then the other one, again, facing traffic, direct them into that live lane and let them go. So again, simple, easy way. Slowing traffic is nothing more than slowing your paddle, flipping your paddle over to slow, and then patting the dog as the cars go by. Just pat the dog, slow them down a little bit. There's a couple diagrams of proper standing methods. Again, I'm sure we're all fully aware of that, and I'm not overly concerned. 2 flagger operations, our most common thing. We got to have a means of communication, two-way radio, some means of communication between those flaggers. And again, teamwork is essential in this whole thing. And typically one flagger is in charge. First flagger always releases traffic by displaying slow. Second flagger holds it, displaying stop. And then that goes on throughout the day, and they communicate back and forth how they're going to do it. Typical two flagger operation, again, no arrow boards, flagger at the beginning of the taper. Communication, there are options, but I'll just tell you, the sight method, unless you got a clear line of sight and you can clearly understand the signals being given, and it's not an agency project, you can use it. But short of those three things, then you go to two-way radios. And before I get two-way radios, they talk about a flag carrying method. That's where you hand somebody a friggin' flag and they take it down to the next person, they hand it back. If you're gonna try the flag carrying method, I'd just go out and buy a bunch of bananas and hand them friggin' bananas because they're never gonna return the flag anyway. But they will drop the peel. Okay? So I think our preferred way of communication is two-way radio. If you're using two-way radio, so make sure we got batteries. Make sure we got batteries so we don't run out of batteries out there. Flag carrying, again, I don't think that works. Advanced flagger, we ran into projects on Route 100, Route 7, Route 4, I think Route 5, where we actually had to use some advanced flaggers to let the traffic know that there was a flagger ahead. And it was just the makeup, the dynamics of the road. It was twisty, turning. And we had to let people know to slow down a little bit. There was a flagger ahead. So again, advanced flaggers are used from time to time. Make sure they're given the proper instructions. Then we have the single flagger. In order to use the single flagger, and this is probably used more in the utility world than the construction world, the short, fast, quick hit, low volume roads, good visibility on each side. I should be able to see between 500 and 1,000 feet away from where I'm set up. I've got to have a flagger sign out there, short duration timeline, and then low speeds. So again, very good visibility. They can see what's going on. And one of the pieces that I've noticed that works very well within this single flagger operation is the ability to have cones at each end. So you set your work zone up much the same way as you normally would, and then you put one or two cones at each end where you expect these cars to stop. So that single flagger can point down line to that target where I want that kind of cars to stop for me. So again, flagger stands across from the workspace and controls both directions of the traffic. Don't allow stop traffic to back up over a crossing. Build the crossing into your work zone. Again, safely doing that. And special situation, multiple access points, and we're becoming more and more aware of multiple access points. I was talking about the pedestrian path, the bike path, the doctor's offices, the Walmarts, whatnot. We've got to cover those high volume access points the same way we would handle another street, West Street, East Street, Class 1 street, whatever it is. Same way we would handle it. So be prepared when you put those traffic control plans together to be ready to handle those multiple access points as well. Nighttime flagging, as I said earlier, you can see the standalone light tower there behind that flagger. Procedures are generally the same. The biggest difference being I want the flagger with a flashlight with a glow cone on it, reflectorized vest, retroreflective paddle, and the auxiliary lighting. Flagging during emergencies, and this probably isn't as much us as the emergency responders, although you guys up in Morrisville I understand you're having pipe issues up there. I mean, if you got a water main break or something going on out there, that's considered an emergency, and you are allowed to use flags in that case. It's a 24 by 24 red flag. You can use them in that case, but you're supposed to get a paddle as soon as it becomes available. And again, we should have our signs out as soon as we can. And that is kind of where we're going. The emergency vehicles, allow them right away as soon as feasible. As I said earlier, if it's a long-term project, talk to your emergency providers, let them know you're out there so they can give you some sort of warning before approaching. But again, they should not be going through and really won't go through that work zone until they're given the go-ahead from you. So try to plan ahead for that and stop them until it's safe. Emergency situations, 2 of them. One emergency situation is if you have a friggin' accident in your line of traffic, if somebody rear ends somebody else or whatever it is, if you have an accident within your line of traffic, you are not the first aid responder. You are not the one that's gonna make sure everybody's okay. Again, let your super know, let your competent person know, let somebody know, but move your work zone, move yourself, flagging, paddle, whatever it is, to the other side of that accident and continue to maintain control of everything going on. If you, that's one side. If we have somebody being an ass, if we have somebody giving us a hard time on this, disobeying your orders, again, let's get some information on them and let's just let the authorities deal with it. Always protect yourself first. Then we warn the other flaggers, workers, and get a description, license plate, something, notify your super. But always protect yourself, and then let's make sure everybody else knows what's going on. If you do have a crash, as I said, notify your supervisor, let them call, get help in there. It's your duty to continue to control traffic and stay in contact with the other flaggers. Handling hostile drivers, as I said, just be in command. Don't abandon your post. Never get closer than the length of your path. Always stay that far away. Some of these guys are friggin' nuts. And let's not resort to carrying on a flagger site. Be courteous first. And remember, flagging is an important job. Stay alert, face oncoming traffic, be visible, stand alone, stay on shoulder, be courteous, and use common sense while you're out there. Just remember the ABCs. Advance warning, be visible, and alert. Do I have any questions out there? I guess I should kind of come back here. Do I have any questions out here? Anything at all? Anything you guys want to talk about? Well, how about we do this? I think Debbie sent you all a test. Am I correct? Anybody want to, Adam, you want to respond to that? I think Debbie sent you all a test.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay. So does everybody have a test? Let's start through this. Does everybody have a test?
I don't appear to yet.
Okay. So let's try to do this semi-differently then. I know Debbie sent out tests. Whether they were printed or you were given them, that's here nor there. Whoever said it does not appear that I have one. Are you sitting with somebody? Or are you all by yourself, man?
All by myself.
Oh. So,
When was the test sent?
pardon?
When was it sent?
It would have been sent yesterday afternoon. But I'm gonna make this easy for you. I'm gonna ask everybody, take out a piece of paper. Everybody take out a piece of paper. Does everybody have a, not everybody has their friggin' test, Deb.
I don't know what they did with it. I
Right.
sent it.
God damn it. They don't have their test.
They seem to have got my email.
Okay. Now, hold on. So here's what we're gonna do. If everybody takes out a piece of paper, take out a piece of paper
Here, you can have it.
and write on it, numbers 1 through 30. Write down on your piece of paper, numbers 1 through 30.
Thank you for all of the hosts. I very much appreciate that.
Subscribe to LGX.
Vorsicht, Frage ist hier.
It's over 9,000?
Vorsicht, Frage ist hier.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And somehow my phone keeps on disconnecting. Okay, good. That's me. Okay, good. What? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I would think so. What? I'm I'm re-looking over this exam that we had to take. You said I should. Yeah. Yeah, exams. This is pretty much going over the flagging safety course. If anything, every Tuesday I go over a safety course video with the live stream because it is not in the YouTube format. So it's a bit harder for quite a few different people. So I just try to transfer it from Venmo to YouTube, which is also the video is also required for me to watch for my upcoming job. And also I used my computer to transition this to a bigger screen for sure. And today is fire safety training, which I started at 1 for all of this. So I have been live for a while, which is interesting. Here's past time lapses over here for background music and also for something for you to watch if you get bored of reading with me. I did go through, oh, yeah, live for 3 hours so far. If you type exclamation uptime. And there you go. Yeah. I thought you would. I generally go live about 7 to 8. And live from, oh, thank you for saying have fun. And thank you for swinging by. Yeah. True. Okay. Went through all of that. I already have all of my answers written down from a little bit earlier, but I'm trying to read through all of this as well. Okay.
On this piece of paper that no longer exists, it just sits there. We have no friggin' clue what we're doing with it. On that piece of paper, I want you to write your name in the upper right-hand corner. Write your name in the upper right-hand corner, please. I want you to do that for me. I want you in the left-hand corner of that, if you got one wrong, I want you to mark yourself a 97. If you got two wrong, I want you to give yourself a 94. If you got three wrong, I want you to give you a 91. If you got four wrong, I want you to give yourself an 88. If you got five wrong, I want you to give yourself an 85. If you got six wrong, I want you to give yourself an 82. If you got seven wrong, you get a 79. If you got eight wrong, you get a 76. If you got nine wrong, you get a 73. If you got 10 wrong, you get a 70. And if you got more than friggin' 10 wrong today, after everything I've done, everything I've given to you, I have failed miserably and I'm done. So I know you all work for somebody. I know you all work for somebody out there. All you people at Hungerford's, could you get those things? Hey, Jim, are you a good guy to collect those tests for me, please? I got two wrong. Jamie, I got two wrong. That's a friggin' 94 there, Jamie. You got your hand up, Jamie, though. What do you want? Okay. Okay, I'm coming into that. So, is Jim or Homer Hungerford somebody I want to talk? Somebody that's responsible at Hungerford. Who's responsible at Hungerford? Is that Jamie? Jamie, are you the responsible person at Hungerford? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay, Jim. Okay, Jim. Hey, Jim, would you collect all those things, all those tests of all those people around you, Caleb, Seth, Homer, Jim, Montgomery, and Norman? Would you collect those? And you can send the test scores back to Debbie, or if you could scan those pieces of paper and email them to Debbie, I would appreciate that very much. And Jim, I think I know you actually. I think we might have beat heads a few times. Jim Hungerford. I'm gonna have to think about that. Go back through a scrapbook or two. You're getting old, by the way. Morrisville, if you could get those to Kevin Newton. Morrisville, if Kevin, you could be responsible. Give me those 4 tests that were taken within your arena. If you could get those emailed to Debbie. And again, Debbie's email, as we all know from earlier, is Debbie@agcvt.org. If you could get those to Debbie, those tests, I would appreciate it, or at least the test scores, if you could email those. Adam, up at Waitsfield Telecom, Adam, I'm gonna give you a big job here. Get those 4 people, those tests from those 4 people, and send them into Debbie. I would appreciate that. Send them into Debbie, send her the test scores, give me something. And then Winterset, all you guys at Winterset, and I'm gonna say Michelle, and somebody's gonna say, no, it's not Michelle, it's gotta go to Kylie or somebody. Winterset, give me your names and your test scores, please, in one fashion or another. And then finally, hey, it seems like Richard Winter down at Basin Brothers, I think we spent last week together over IMSHA stuff, and now you're here with the whole flagging thing. If you could send that into Debbie as well, I would appreciate it. Oh, was that you? I'm sorry. Okay. He's sitting right here. He's right here. I didn't even know who the hell I had. But I got him and John in front of me. I'm doing great. I think that's it, guys. If you have any questions, I'm standing here. I'm live and ready to answer the questions. Otherwise, if you feel like it's been a good day and you want to continue along your way, I would highly encourage you all to get vaccinated as soon as humanly possible. Try to get this shit out of here and back to normal. I would highly encourage everybody to do so. Other than that, guys, have a good day. Give me a call if I can be of help, and we'll move from there. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you. Test from you.
Yeah.
I gave you a card.
Yep.
We're all set.
Yep, we're all good, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
You too, bud. Need to take a break from this class. I was making it a little stirring.
Thank you, man.
Or is that normal, man?
That's normal at this point. Thank you.
They never got their email to join a lot of them. That was weird.
be uncertain, but the commitment of the Army National Guard's citizen soldiers remains constant. Whenever there is a national crisis, the Vermont National Guard has been there, working alongside first responders, executing emergency management plans, and providing whatever support is needed to keep our country and its citizens safe and protected. Learn more about starting your next career at nationalguard.com/VT.
It's over 9,000?
Vorsicht, Frage ist hier. Vorsicht, Frage ist hier.
Subscribe to LGX.
Vorsicht, Frage ist hier.
Subscribe to LGX.
It's over 9,000?
Okay, good. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Okay. And this is where I watch all of these videos. This is called COVID Live. It's ACG Springs. What? Okay. I'll be around here. Spring safety.
Welcome to the kitchen. Today we are
Okay, this is cringe content for me. Because I don't like hearing myself talk at all.
So I want to welcome you all to our Monday morning safety seminar, where we do these safety seminars to go through the latest and
see how good this onion is.
Nearest and dearest
or actually a
things
side of
within the
taco.
construction safety world. This week we're going to be discussing scaffolding. But before I hit scaffolding, I just thought I'd give you a reminder, because we're all in the middle of this COVID thing, just thought I'd bring you back to the COVID thing for a moment. We will not see, with
So I have to
the
peel off
advent
the
of
skin in order
vaccines
to
and
actually
whatnot,
get to
if you
the part
think
that
it's
we
going back
wanna keep.
to normal, it's only going partway back to normal. We will be having to use face masks or facial coverings throughout this season. I'm predicting right now the contract elements, the safety protocols, the guidance, different elements like that will not change greatly for us. We'll have to continue that 6-foot distancing in some manner and continue to wear our face masks as required, both by guidance, protocols, and by contract elements that are out there. But today, I want to hit the scaffolding and scaffolding requirements. I'll tell you, they got several key elements within the scaffolding piece. Several key elements. One being,
actually does have a
and
back
companies
so
all set this
actually have to
differently,
cut
and we
that
have to
out.
remember they set this differently. But scaffolding actually has a 10-foot fall protection requirement. Scaffolding has a 10-foot fall protection requirement. Now, some companies, and depending on contract and depending on what we're doing, some companies will set their fall protection requirement the same as they set their fall protection requirement based on general site-specific fall protection requirements. And those fall protection requirements are 6 feet for the use of fall protection in any arena. But scaffolding has a exemption to that